Soldiers from the US, France, UK and Germany have all been used to bolster NATO deployments. Picture, Rex AFP EPAPA. Boris Johnson has warned Russian President Vladimir Putin that any invasion of Ukraine will backfire spectacularly. The Prime Minister said any efforts to destabilize NATO would only serve to strengthen it, hours after his counterpart in Moscow raised the prospect of nuclear war. An estimated 130,000 troops are massed on Ukraine's borders, and Moscow has demanded sweeping changes to defense arrangements in Europe. President Putin wants NATO presence in Eastern Europe and the Balkans scaled back to levels last seen in the mid-1990s. Western nations have responded to the aggression by bolstering troop numbers in countries close to Russia's border and by supplying Ukraine with military support. Diplomatic efforts are continuing, but President Putin has warned Europe not to get sucked into a fight against another nuclear power. Mr. Johnson's comments come after it was confirmed 350 British soldiers are being sent to shore up operations in Poland and that plans to send RAF Typhoon fighters and warships are also under consideration. Boris Johnson met with generals in Kiev when he held talks with the Ukrainian president last week. Picture, Reuters. Writing in the Times, he said will not flinch now and that Britain will remain unconditional and immovable in supporting the NATO defense alliance. He added, if he launches another invasion, he will force the West to bring about much of what he seeks to prevent. In fact, this is already happening. Because of his build-up, America, France, Italy and other allies are deploying forces to NATO's southeastern flank, just as the UK reinforces the northeast. Nor could there be a more compelling argument for the necessity of NATO than the sight of Russian tanks invading a European country once again. So I hope the Kremlin might yet realize how its objectives would not be served by inflicting still greater destruction and bloodshed on Ukraine. Both Foreign Secretary Liz Truss and Defense Secretary are due to fly to Moscow for talks with their opposite numbers. Diplomatic efforts to avoid an incursion are ongoing, but a huge gulf remains between Russia's demands and what NATO is willing to compromise on. A military instructor teaches civilians to use Molotov cocktails during a training session at an abandoned factory in the Ukrainian capital of Kiev. Picture, AFP. Moscow's main demand, a formal guarantee that Ukraine is never allowed to join the military alliance, is out of the question for Western allies. The UK troops being sent to Poland will join 100 Royal Engineers already stationed there as part of a NATO deployment. Poland has seen tension on its border with Belarus in recent months after its president, a key ally of President Putin, opened a backdoor for asylum seekers to reach Europe. There were clashes on the border as thousands flew from the Middle East with the intention of crossing the land border into the EU, a destabilizing process Belarus was accused of encouraging. Last-ditch diplomacy is continuing, with French President Emmanuel Macron personally appealing to President Putin to de-escalate during talks in Moscow yesterday. To view this video, please enable JavaScript, and consider upgrading to a web browser that supports HTML5 video. While he struck a more placid tone in some of his post-talk comments, the Russian leader also raised the prospect of nuclear escalation. He recognized Moscow's military power is incomparable with that of NATO, but warned his country is still one of the leading nuclear states. He added, there will be no winners, and you will be pulled into this conflict against your will. The German Chancellor was in Washington yesterday, where US President Joe Biden insisted there was still a peaceful route out of the crisis. Get in touch with our news team by emailing us at webnews@metro.co.uk. For more stories like this, check our news page.